Hey, you guys, welcome back to Brownie's Judgment. I'm your host, Zuli, and today I wanted to talk about my journey of me deleting social media for 5+ years. The first time I ever, quote unquote, had social media was around 7th grade, whenever in class, a classmate of mine told me about Kick. And I don't know if you guys remember that platform, but it was like a little text messaging platform where you could, have your profile pictures and message people and have group chats and stuff like that. And I remember we were in a math class. I want to say it was algebra. So maybe this was 7th grade. And I remember he was like, "Oh, download it, download it." And then I was like, why? And then he just kind of explained it was just a way to, talk to people. And I think that just lasted until middle school. I can't remember when Kick stopped being used. And then I want to say in 8th grade, a friend of mine from band, she told me about Instagram, and so many people had tried to get me to download Instagram for years and years, and I was just like, no, I don't want to, blah blah blah. But then finally she encouraged me, and then I just did it. And I remember like an ex-boyfriend that I had at the time, he wasn't happy. I remember he was upset because he was like, I had always tried to get you to download Instagram and blah 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 blah. And I was just like, I don't know, something about the way she said it. So I remember Instagram like totally boggling my mind and altering my perception of the world in general. Because before even, Kick, all I had was Vine, and you'd watch these funny videos and stuff like that. But Instagram really altered my perception of myself physically, for sure. I mean, insecurities physically that I didn't know I had, started emerging. And physically, I felt like that was around the age, 13, where I really started picking myself apart. And, a lot of Gen Zers can relate to this, being so young and having those insecurities because of social media and these unrealistic expectations. And that was really, that was more than 10 years ago now. And it's just so interesting because, back then Photoshop wasn't as prevalent as it is now, you know what I mean? And now, after that, I think I downloaded Snapchat when I was around 9th grade in high school or something like that. And oh my goodness, at the time, Snapchat was really cool. We would record videos and send each other snaps and those snap streaks or whatever. And I really enjoyed Snapchat for what it was at the time before. Now, how it is so different with everyone, you know, uh, posting videos and pictures of people to embarrass them. I mean, that was at the time when I was in high school, that was a thing, but it wasn't to like humiliate people in the sense of how it is now, to totally ruin their image. Before then, it was just, oh, like a little fun, and then everyone would forget about it the next week, kind of thing. Um, and so I had Snapchat and Instagram at this point, and I believe Kick was deleted by the time I was in high school. I never had Twitter. I think I downloaded Facebook later on, like 11th grade maybe. I really can't remember, but I just got it, to communicate with family and whatnot. But I noticed, and then I would use YouTube too, of course. Way before the YouTube Shorts were a thing. But I genuinely feel like I was convicted uh, after high school. So after I graduated high school this summer, I don't know, I accidentally clicked a link that somebody sent me, and it was a spam and I didn't realize it. And so basically my Instagram account got hacked. But a part of me wanted to kind of just fall off the face of the planet at this point, which is funny, because now I'm making a podcast, but still, it was just kind of like one of those things where I genuinely was just so tired of the comparison, and I just wanted a fresh slate. Finally, I think I might have been about to hit 18 at this point. I was 17 going on 18, or I was already 18. And I just felt like this was my sign. Finally, I had a way out, of Instagram. And then I remember I tried texting people saying like, oh, yay. Oh, by the way, this is my number, blah, blah, blah. I'm deleting my Instagram account now because, it got hacked. I was surprised because some people that I thought would text me, for us to keep in contact, they didn't. So it's just a little bittersweet, I guess, because, I really wanted to, keep those friendships going. It's unfortunate, but it's okay. And then there are some people that surprised me that I sent them my number and they reached out. And then, we still talk to this day. I think some of them, I can't really remember. It was so long ago. And so that was Instagram before I started college. And then, I started college the same year. I started in August, right after I graduated in June of that same year, and back in 2019. And then I remember, because I was the first one in my family really to go like in person to like a community college sort of thing. And I remember I needed to get work done. I want to say maybe it was for like my English class or something like that. And I just could not focus. I mean, it was ridiculous. I just could not, for the life of me, stop scrolling on Snapchat and just watching these ridiculous videos, and watching, my friends from high school that they were on vacation and that they were going to this really cool college. And then I started comparing myself like the way I used to when I had Instagram. And I remember I was just sitting in the library of my community college on the computer and just being like, I can't do it anymore. I just felt convicted, there again, that I just could not continue on with this. So then I just abruptly deleted Snapchat. I can't remember if I reached out to people. I probably did, a handful. And, so basically it was a sacrifice I made to lose contact with all those people from high school that I didn't really know like that, and now finally, I think I have some friends still from that I used to have on Snapchat, and then I texted them my number or whatever. I can't really remember. So, and then I noticed an immediate shift after I deleted Snapchat that I had so much more focus on what I needed to get done. And so finally, uh, I was able, to continue on that semester. Oh, my college journey in itself will have to be a totally different episode. But I was able to, focus better. And I want to say the year after or something, I think I was 18 going on 19. I want to say still that I deleted Facebook. So finally I was able to delete the comparison of strangers from Instagram, and then finally I was able to delete, comparison of like old friends from high school, middle school, whatever, on Snapchat. But then Facebook was a different thing. It was like I was comparing myself to, you know, family members, and that's mainly what I had on there. And then not just family members, but also like really close friends I had in high school, because I was really picky about who I shared my Facebook account with. And so, I just started finding myself comparing myself in regards of like, oh, they've accomplished this or they've done that, not even like thinking logically like, yeah, this person's like 10 years older than me. Obviously, they're gonna, have accomplished more in life sort of thing. So, and then finally I decided, I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I just need to just delete Facebook. And that was really hard for me to do because I was very reluctant on it. I think I debated on it for like about a month because I genuinely didn't want to delete it, because that was my way of keeping up with what my family was doing, and then my really close friends. But and then when I started seeing that people were already getting married and they had like these long relationships and whatnot, and then I was single at the time for some years, I think. Yeah, I was. So and then I was just like, you know what, I really need to focus on college. Like that was a big thing for me. I wanted to make sure that I built a career for myself, and that'll be, part of the college episode one day. So, and then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to delete Facebook too. So, and then now here, so many years later, last year, whenever I had just barely turned 23, that's when I decided to download it again, because I went to a vacation in Mexico last year, and I wanted to keep up with, family members over there. So between that time frame of 17/18, deleting all my social media, to maybe 19 was Facebook, I don't remember, to 23, all that time frame left so much time for overthinking, and I dealt with a lot of doubt at that time. I still do, but definitely a lot more at that, in that that phase in my life. And I would recommend someone who genuinely does not know what they're doing, and they're finding themselves comparing to whoever it is that they have on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. I definitely would recommend at least taking a break from it, whether for you, for as long as you can handle, whether it's a week or two, or even just a couple days or some months, or maybe even a year or more. You don't have to go as extreme as I did of doing it for 5+ years, but regardless, it was hard because people would be like, oh, did you see this video, or do you know this channel, or do you know this trend, or this clothing, or this shoe, or jewelry, or whatever, just. And it just made me realize how so many trends are always coming and going. Like a new video game comes out, and then, oh no, everyone forgets about it because here's a new one, or this so it just made me realize how consumerism is at its finest when it comes to people seeing what other people have and wanting it, whether it's a family or a gift or a vacation. And genuinely, I feel like to this day, deleting social media during those very, very malleable, very can be influenced years of my life was the best decision, I would say, to this day, that I've ever made, because it's helped me realize and really think about, okay, what is it that I truly do want to do. And as I said in my trailer, sometimes I doubt it and I'm not really certain, and I kind of uh ask God about that a lot, but it's still one of those things where I genuinely wouldn't have as much clarity as I do now than I did before. And something I've realized is that deep down we really know what we want and what we want to go for and the path that we want to go on, but we're scared. You know what I mean? Like, I truly do recognize that we second guess ourselves because it's hard to go down the path that we really want, So I wouldn't have been able to see that quote unquote path as well as I have or would have or whatever if I hadn't deleted social media, because it just took away all that noise of being sort of influenced by these people. And I'm a little bit older now, so I definitely do feel like the mind I have now at 24 is very different from the mind I had at 17, 18, 19. And obviously, I do realize I'm still really young, but everyone can attest that's, my age or older, can definitely say that their mind is so much more different than when they were a teenager, for sure, 100%. And I definitely do feel like, social media is not going away. It has its pros and its cons, and, that can be a totally different thing to talk about as well, about social media's the pros and the cons or whatever. But, it's something that's talked about so much. But regardless, so that was my experience in deleting social media. I don't know if a lot of people know about that I did that, but regardless, I would like to know about your experiences with social media. Do you ever feel like sometimes you want to take a break? Have you? How was that like? Um, what's your opinion on social media in general. Just feel free to, leave a comment if you're comfortable sharing. But regardless, that's going to be the end of the episode today. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate your time. Catch you guys in the next one.